Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel. My name, as always, is Bloodstained Wings, and today, it's time for our monthly palette knife painting challenge! Lately, a lot of our palette knife painting challenges have been done with a gesso base. So, I thought I'd let you guys know that you don't have to have a gesso base. And this month, I decided to do a beautiful landscape. What? But how did you paint trees? No, but you can't paint clouds with a palette knife? Why, yes you can. Why, yes you can. And you guys can paint along with me if you would like. The colors that I used here are Prussian blue, titanium white, a little bit of alizarin crimson, and yellow ochre. Oh, I think also there's some lamp black in there. So if you guys would like to join, you'll need a palette knife, those colors, your goop, and a canvas to work on. Are you excited? I'm excited. Let's do this! So, about that monthly palette knife challenge painting. I think it's been a long time since we did one that did not have a gesso base. And so that's what I figured we would do today. Do a straight, regular kind of thing. Well, that's not really what I meant. But do a just a regular landscape painting is what I'm trying to say. We're gonna do a regular landscape painting. I'm hoping to do something with a lot of contrast, where I'm gonna have like a really dark sky with some really bright trees, and then a really dark lake with some reflections in there. So the colors that I have on the side here, I'm gonna start with some white just to lighten the sky up so that we have like a nice base from which to start the sky with. Obviously, every time we start, we always start with a brush to lay the goop, and then whatever base color, we always start with brushes. So it's not exclusively palette knife, but the idea is the same, okay? We're mostly using palette knife. You gotta still have the idea is to get practice with the palette knife. That's the idea. Practice with the palette knife. I'm going to do most of this painting with just the palette knife, and it is going to be a landscape painting with just the palette knife. So, I do have some brushes. I'll show you what brushes I got. I've got these two brushes to pull out some color, which I think might happen later, and then I've got the big brush for the application of the most of the color, and then I've got a big a palette knife, and then a little palette knife. And then on my palette, I have here the white, titanium white with the goop, and then this is lemon yellow, and this is yellow ochre. This is Prussian blue, and this is lamp black. Just so you guys know what colors I'm planning to do with this. So I'm going to start with this brush, and I'm going to actually mix a little bit of the Prussian blue with some black, and start in the corners, and get like hopefully a nice like dark gray somber tone. To really like contrast greatly with the yellow that I'm gonna have. Hopefully this works. Oh yeah. So we're gonna start in the corners, and then I want to have some lake down here kind of thing. But I'm gonna go back up to the sky. We're gonna just fill in a little bit of the sky. Not overly filling it in, because I am gonna go over this with a palette knife to make some clouds with a palette knife, and then we're gonna have like a mountain, which gives us more mountain practice, which is nice. Love that mountain practice. So we're just making tiny little X's here to have a nice dark gloomy sky. That's the idea here. Very doom and gloom in our sky. And I just want to have a little pulled out effect. So really, I guess this is more like limited brushes and a palette knife, or maybe palette knife practice. Not sure, because we are not doing a lot with the palette knife yet, and we've solidly started this painting, so not sure I can call it palette knife only, but I've only used one brush, so I feel like it still counts. If I try hard enough, I feel like I can convince you that I'm right. So there is the white that's on the canvas that this is blending with, which is causing a lot of these variations to occur. There's also a variable amount of paint on my brush, which is also causing a little bit of lightness to occur. because not everything is the same everything. But by making it tiny little X's, it means we don't have a lot of the same kind of brush strokes that are happening in the same area. And then it causes it to blend much more easily. And also look much more variable, which is important in a sky. You don't want everything to be all the same. I mean, you can. Some skies are like that, but for the most part, everything is kind of weird and wiggly like this. Time for that brush to go away. Time for some palette knifing. That's right. So I'm gonna go ahead and load up a little. I'm gonna do it on camera, so you guys can see what I'm doing. So I grab a little bit of paint on my brush and then on my knife, and then I pull it out like really flat, so you can see it's like super flat, and then I pull up a little bit of it. So just a tiny bit right on the end there. And that's the important part, is to have that little tiny bit. And I'm gonna come in and make some like dramatic decisions as to where we're gonna have some clouds. I think we're gonna have, I've not really thought about this. I'm just kind of going on a whim here. So what if we did it like this and we had the whole thing like rounded, right? So that like it was a little bit here and then like big up over here, right? We'll just blend the bottoms. Yeah, I'm blending with a palette knife. That's a thing you can do. Did you know you could do that? Blend with a palette knife? Just like that. You just kind of moosh it about. It's really what I'm doing. It's just mooshing it about. I'm really bending the knife. I don't know if you guys can see how much I'm bending the knife, but I'm very much bending the knife to make this kind of smooshing happen. But it's giving me a nice cloud feel, which is nice. That's what we're looking for. I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing on the other side. There we go. And blending very gently over here. Blending a little more aggressively over here. There we go. That's more cloud-like. Needs a little bit more. There we go. Well, I think I just need to do that a few more times. That's really what I'm going to do. Just add little bits at a time to this cloud situation. Yeah, trying to get that like angle in. I like it when clouds do that sometimes. It looks really cool. And they just, you know, have dramatic angles. I find it makes them look really cool. You know, but like in your world, maybe the clouds look different, and then you should paint them the way they look in your world. There's definitely a lot with the palette knife of just letting things happen sometimes. And that's one of the things I really like about the palette knife, is that you just kind of let things happen. And then they happen and you're like, yay, that thing happened. And I like that about the palette knife. That's my personal preference. I find that with the palette knife, the lack of control is like fun and exciting. And you get to just kind of lose yourself to it. Now, a lot of artists don't like that and don't like the palette knife as a result, and much prefer to have the paintbrushes, and that's fine. You can keep using a paintbrush if you would like, but if you're looking to explore and let go and have some fun with textures, please feel free to check out one of the palette knife challenges and try it yourself, because I feel like a lot of people are scared of the palette knife, and I've mentioned this before in one of my palette knife videos. People are scared of the palette knife. They're always like, oh my god, it's so scary because it's a knife. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, it's true. It is a knife and it's hard to get used to, and it's good to have practice with it, because you'll get better as you practice with it, which is definitely a thing. I'm really happy with this. This looks pretty cool. I don't think I need to do much else, but what I am going to do is I'm still going to use a brush to just flick the tops, just the tops, to give it more of a wispy cloud feel. I'm not going to blend the bottom. I'm just going to flick the tops because we did all the blending on the bottom with the palette knife. But to get those real wispy things, I feel like you need, yeah, see, like you can see up here and like over here. It's doing some pretty neat things. So I like that. I think that's a solid go right there. Let's mix some more of that black and blue. Get a nice, thick, dark color. And I'm going to go ahead, get another little roll of paint, loaded it the same way. And I'm going to pick where I want to have my mountain. I really like a lot of these clouds and I don't want to cover them, is my problem right now. So I want to have like a really low mountain. But I wanted to have like big trees that are like out in front. Ooh, decisions. Okay, well, let's have it do this. Let's just go for it. And we can shape this mountain however we want to. If I want to have it shaped like that, so I can still have the cool wisps over here. Have it come down like this. Have it come back up like this. I can do that. I can do that. I have the power of choice. I can move mountains if I want to. Come in like this. Have like a little extra guy here, I think. There we go. Don't want to make them too triangle-y, but actually, you know what? Let's, yeah, make that one completely not triangle-y at all. That's definitely a thing you want to be careful of, is making your mountains triangles. I know that mountains seem triangle shapes, but like at the end of the day, they're kind of not. Let's have this go like way up here. So as much as mountains are kind of triangle shaped, they're also kind of not triangle shaped. And it's really hard to explain what that difference is without looking at it. But basically, you don't want the center line of your mountains to be like here, and then like this side is light and this side is dark, and doing like the same thing here where it's just like a straight line. You don't want to do that. You want to have your mountains be various different wiggliness. You want to have like a nice and good sinuosity to your mountains, so that they feel more real, because mountains aren't just like straight triangles. They're always a little bit different. I think I have to pull this out with a brush, and I think I'm gonna have a very hard time of pulling this out with just my palette knife. All right, brush. But it's okay, we're just pulling paint out. We're gonna paint with a palette knife on top of this. Just need a base color to work with here. There we go. So pull that color back through here. There we go. You can't tell where the mountain stops and the lake starts. That's what I want. There we go. Looking snazzy. Yes, okay, great. Now we can do the highlights and stuff, which is great because we love doing that. So I'm gonna get the white. I'm gonna get a nice pile of white. I'm gonna start with the highlights. So this is basically pure white, but my palette knife is not perfectly clean. So I'm just gonna try to figure out where I wanna highlight on this guy and plop in the highlights. So I think I'm gonna do this, like that. And see, right now, that's very triangle-like, but if I do this, all of a sudden it's not a triangle anymore, and it looks much more real. Now the trick again to this, that little roll of paint on the end of your knife, and then you want to come in and very gently pull that paint, letting the palette, letting the paper pick up as much as it wants to pick up, and just delicately and very gently plopping that back in. Whoop! I hit the camera. Sorry about that. Come in here. Do a nice little highlight on this guy. I need more white paint. There we go. There we go. So now you can see we've got the highlights on our mountain, and now we need the lowlights. So grabbing some more of the white, I'm going to mix that in with our shade color, but not overly. So all I did was grab the white, put it down, then grabbed a little bit of this, put it down, pulled them both up, pushed it down, and that's it. I only did it once, and you can see how it's all like different kind of colors in there. It's not pure white, it's not pure the other color. It's kind of a combo of both, and then on my palette knife, the little roll of paint there, it's got both colors in it. And then we're gonna come in and pull this color down. Whoosh. And it should be a darker color than what is on our canvas. And we're pulling the opposite way that we've already laid stuff down, and that will give us a shadow color. And that's what we want, is a little shadow color to come in and play in this area. And then we can blend the two together where they meet up. So you can see now that it looks more like everything is one thing. Gonna sneak in there a little bit. There we go. Blend these together and pull this down just a smidge right through there. Very gently. I have become a mud mixer a little bit, and that's okay. I'm going to grab a little bit of white and a little bit of the other color and come back in here and add a little more of that texture back through. There. So now it's got both of those colors through there, and they both exist. There we go. That's a little better. And that's the idea, is to just layer in that stuff, because it kind of, these mountains look much more close than this mountain. I don't know how that happened, but that's what happened. And that's okay. You can just pull some of this out a little bit further, and that will help to bring this one further out. There, see? Now it's looking good. All right. Now it's time for the crazy, and I'm really excited about this. So what I'm going to try to do, I'm going to try really hard, don't know how well I'm going to do, to have some yellow trees over here and have them reflected into this water area. So we're going to try to have some yellow trees, maybe like a big yellow tree right here that just kind of like exists. So I'm going to start with the yellow ochre. We're going to start with the yellow ochre. All right, here we go. Let's start with the big tree. All right, and then using just the tip, come across and pull out some stylized leaves. Woo! For my little guy here. Yes! All right, let's try to get another guy. Maybe over there, maybe doing that. Trying to keep it like very gentle. There we go. Yeah, yellow. Okay, we're doing it. This yellow ochre is it's sandy. I don't know how to explain other than to say that it's sandy. This is a new tube that I'm using, and it is a very sandy consistency. I'm not quite used to it, because usually my paint colors are much thinner. I definitely like this, and I don't think I'm going to use the other yellow. I might use the other yellow for some highlights, but I really like this yellow ochre in contrast to the Prussian blue. I think that that's working really well. I might use the yellow ochre to like highlight. Apparently we're gonna have several trees here, and that's okay. Just gonna kind of drop it in. There we go. I don't know if you guys can hear the difference between that, how it usually sounds to how it is right now. Woo. Little extra guys. There we go. I am really genuinely liking this. I think this looks really cool and really weird. Get a little guy in there. There we go. There we go. All right, I think I can do, I kind of want to add red. I kind of want to disagree with my whole yellow aesthetic. 1 second. All right, I am back. I have a little bit of alizarin crimson, and I'm just gonna come in here and like shade some of these trees over here, just to give it like a little, I don't know, shade. I'm shading it. I want to have a little shade. Just like some of these trees being slightly different, I think is going to make a big difference. Oh, that one red one though. Looks so good. All right, let's do another one right here. It's just like the tiniest bit to make a difference. And then I can go back to the yellow and kind of go over. Yes, so now it all kind of like adds a little bit of a dimension to those trees there, and I can still use some of the bright yellow if I wanted to highlight it, but I don't think I want to. I think I just want to leave it as the yellow ochre. I'm really liking that yellow ochre. I'm going much darker than I thought I was going to with this painting is what I'm trying to say. Okay. Yes. This is looking very cool in my opinion. I hope you guys are liking this. I don't know if anybody else is going to do this kind of thing, but if you are, please let me know because I would love to see what you're doing. I'm trying to decide what to do here. I want like a landform that it's on. Maybe I'll make a mixture of this yellow ochre with the red and have the red down here. And I can come across and highlight that as if it was a rock with some of the yellow ochre. Maybe I can mix it with a little bit of the white. No, let's just leave it the yellow ochre. There we go. Oh, I am liking this. Okay, I am going to take a little bit of the white, just a smidge of it, and I'm going to go over top of that. Yes. Oh, that looks exactly the way I wanted it to. Excellent. All right, I'm going to do, so I have a little bit of white with the goop. And I just cut across it like that. So it's kind of on like the very tip of the blade. And then pushing very hard, I'm going to come in and cut across a little water line. And it's not going to work. Beautiful. Apparently I just didn't have enough. We'll just grab some more. Do it again. There we go. It's working. It's working. There, so we have like a little bit of water like splashing up against this side, and you can see the little like ripples of that occurring there. And that you just push the knife like really, really down like that. You really, really bend it. You really, really bend that knife so that it gets that nice angle there. Now we can try to do some reflections of the trees. So I'm going to grab my palette knife here, and I'm just going to dance this across the surface down here and kind of pull down very gently to kind of give it this like reflections feel to it, hopefully. I think what I'm going to do is use my brush, and just pull down very gently just to blend that out a little bit, make it look more like reflections. And then gently pull across to make it a little blurry. It's also going to make that water a slightly green hue, which is fine. Wow, I really like the way this looks right now. This is really cool. We need to have some other landform over here that needs to like close in that side, because right now it's kind of floating and weird. So what do I want to do there? How do I want to do that, right? Because I really like this mountain. How can I do it without destroying the mountain? With a palette knife at that. We gotta make sure it's with a palette knife. If I mix some of the yellow with the red, again, and I make a landform, right, that just kind of like dances around out here. Kind of makes this look more river-like, which is nice. And then I can grab the yellow and do a highlight. And then I can grab some white, do another highlight. There we go. And I can make some little trees. Why don't I do that with the small palette knife? And then they can look like they're very far away. Like that. Very, very tiny, very far away trees. You can even just do that, lift upwards. Kind of make them exist a little. See if we can do them the same way we do the other ones. Just side by side. No, that didn't really work all that well. But, I mean, it kind of did, but it kind of didn't. That's okay. Just place them vertically, really gently. There we go. Just continue to place trees in the distance. I think this is going to really help to give it some depth as well. Place the mountains somewhere so they're not just like floaty mountains. Although, you know, I'm a big fan of floaty mountains. So really, They could have been big floating mountains. There we go. Just little trees in the distance. Do we maybe want to have like a big tree that's like out here and out front and loud and proud, and we can have our like bravery test? Maybe right through this mountain here. Do this. Right there. It's our bravery test right there. We're gonna come in, start giving it some gentle leaves. Keeping in mind when you're doing this that the tops of these trees are always much thinner than the bottoms of the trees. Right? So you want to make sure that the top of the tree has like a little bit, and then the bottom of the tree starts to get like a lot. I ran out of paint. Alright, I am back with paint. Well, that's too much on my brush. There we go. My brush on my palette knife. There we go. We can start really getting into it with this guy. Because he's just a right big boy, ain't he? This guy could have a name. That's how big he is. He could be Fitzpatrick. This is Fitzpatrick. He's not quite done yet. But I have named him Fitzpatrick. And yes, I do randomly give names to my trees. There was an Eduardo I painted a while ago now. And oh my god, I still love His Majesty. That is a majestic tree, Eduardo. And I do think Fitzpatrick here is also very majestic. As majestic? I don't know. It's not really a point of comparison, really. Also, they were painted completely differently, so really, I'm not sure you can compare these two things at all. But they are both kind of pine tree-ish. Well, this one is clearly a lark. Just if you guys want to know, there are yellow pine trees. They exist. They lose their needles in the fall. They are deciduous trees, even though they are, in fact, pine trees. They exist. Look them up. Just gonna try to give more direction to the top of this tree a little bit. There we go. Yeah! Yeah, pine tree. Should there be another one? Should he have a friend? Maybe Fitzpatrick has a friend. Eduardo was all alone. Maybe Fitzpatrick has a friend right here. You know, Fitzpatrick is a cool dude. I mean, his first name is Fitzpatrick. That says a lot to have that as your first name, you know. So you're already a pretty cool dude. And you know, so he makes a lot of friends. It's got good friend action. Just gonna have his little friend disappear into him at the bottom, which is fine. They live together. There we go. There we go. That looks pretty snazzy. I like it. Adding some extra branches so it looks like there's definitely two trees here and not just the one. They're going in different directions because they grow a little bit differently. Now we'll just have a little bit of ground for this guy to sit on. Or just more tree for it to exist on. Either way. Oh yeah, that looks pretty snazzy. I'm pretty pleased with that. I realize now I forgot to do the little water line for that guy, so I don't know if I can do that with this brush because I've never done it with this before, but it sort of works. It kind of sort of works. It's very difficult, but there. I kind of sort of did it. There. That looks right-ish. Yeah. So we have our nice little water reflections. We've got our mountain. We've got our clouds doing some epicness. Wow, this was a lot of fun. Oh my god, I'm so glad. I feel more energized than I was earlier today. I was tired all day today. Clearly, all I needed to do was paint with a palette knife. Obviously, the answer to all of my problems is just spend time painting with a palette knife. I hope you guys try a palette knife painting where you practice your palette knife like we did here with some pretty trees and some reflections and some mountains, maybe even some clouds. If you don't feel confident with the palette knife and you're afraid that it's not going to turn out well, try. Just try. What's the worst thing that can happen, right? Just try. You're only going to get better with practice, so you might as well practice. And I definitely think that if you are very intimidated by the palette knife, doing something like this where you are painting a lot with it, so even if it is a painting that you don't like at the end of the day, you still end up with a lot of practice, and that's the important part. I really like how this part of the mountain turned out, and I'm glad that it's in the center. I also really like how this part of this mountain turned out. Sadly, I covered some of it with trees, but that's okay. I am really happy with this painting, and that's the important part. I hope you guys like it too. And as always, thank you guys so much for your continued support here and on Patreon and on my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/bloodstainedwings. I really appreciate you guys always spending some time with me and watching me paint. I hope you guys enjoy these paintings. This painting will be available in the links below, so please feel free to check them out. It's on my link tree. Please remember that you are loved and you deserve to be loved, and I'll catch you guys next week. Mwah! Bye!